The morning sunlight spilled over the city like a calm promise, but for Aidan Crow, a 34-year-old single dad and struggling paramedic trainee, this day would become the one that shattered everything he believed about fate. He had no idea that within the next few hours, he would perform an action so desperate, so unexpected, that it would put his name inside the private office of one of the world's most powerful billionaires. It began with a moment of pure instinct, a life hanging between breaths, and a kiss that was never meant to be romantic, but would change his world forever. Aidan Crow's life was built on small routines and quiet sacrifices. He lived in a modest apartment with his 8-year-old daughter, Maya, a bright-eyed girl who somehow understood more about life than most adults. Since losing her mother to an unexpected illness 4 years earlier, Maya became Aidan's reason to wake up every day, even when exhaustion pinned his bones and worry hovered like a storm cloud over his finances. He worked part-time as a hospital orderly while studying to become a certified paramedic. Every extra shift, every late-night exam session, every small victory was for her and for the future he had promised. The hospital where he worked, Crestline Medical Center, catered to all kinds of patients, from exhausted workers to high-profile elites whose entourages filled the hallways. Aidan kept his head down, focused on learning, absorbing everything he could. The doctors knew him for his dedication, the nurses admired how gently he handled each patient. He never wanted recognition. Just stability. Just enough money to ensure Maya never felt the kind of fear he knew too well. That morning, the hospital buzzed louder than usual. A private security team moved in and out of the VIP wing, men with dark suits, hidden earpieces, and expressions that never softened. Rumor had it that a billionaire's daughter had been admitted overnight. Not for illness, she had fainted during an exclusive charity event she was hosting, and her father wasn't taking any chances. The heiress's name was Rhea Lancaster. A name spoken with fascination by some, envy by others. A woman who graced magazines not for scandals, but for her quiet humanitarian projects. She was 30, beautiful in a grounded way, known for choosing impact over attention. Yet fame never shielded her from fragility. Aidan didn't expect to cross her path. She was in the VIP wing, and he had been assigned to general care that morning. But fate didn't care about human boundaries. Around noon, chaos erupted from the private hallway. Nurses shouted for help, alarms blared, and one voice cut through the noise, "She's not breathing." Aidan dropped the files in his hands and sprinted toward the sound before anyone could call his name. He didn't ask permission. Lives didn't wait. When he reached the room, he saw her, a young woman collapsed on the floor beside her hospital bed. A nurse knelt beside her, pushing frantic compressions on her chest. The security officers stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene or stay back. Rhea Lancaster's lips were turning pale, her breath shallow, her pulse fading like a candle in the wind. "Move," Aidan said, not loudly, but with a certainty that parted the panic. The nurse shifted back as Aidan slid to the floor and began assessing her quickly. A sudden allergic reaction, maybe a medication interaction, had triggered respiratory failure. Her airway was closing fast. She needed CPR and immediate airway assistance. He started compressions, counting steadily, forcing oxygen into her lungs, but her pulse was slipping. Her body arched slightly, her brain starving for air. Aidan made a decision in one split second, the kind that medical books mentioned but rarely unfolded so suddenly. "Her airway, she's not getting enough ventilation," he muttered. He tilted her head back, cleared her mouth, and lowered himself for a life-saving breath. His lips met hers, not in affection, but in urgency, in raw instinct, the kiss of survival. He breathed for her. Once. Twice. 3 times. Her chest rose weakly. Her pulse flickered. Nurses scrambled with oxygen masks. The doctor rushed in. And slowly, like the sun fighting its way through thick clouds, her breathing returned. Rhea Lancaster lived. But Aidan knew that moment, the one where his lips met the heiress's, would follow him like a shadow. By evening, the hospital administration called him into a private room. They hadn't scolded him, but the seriousness in their expressions made his chest tighten. They asked for a detailed report. They reminded him that high-profile patients meant high-level sensitivities. Aiden nodded, answered respectfully, though fear gnawed at him. He had done the right thing. But right things sometimes carried expensive consequences. He didn't sleep that night. Maya drew pictures beside him, sensing his worry without asking. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through their small kitchen window, Aiden's phone buzzed with an unknown number. He almost ignored it. But something, intuition, or destiny, made him pick it up. Mr. Crow, a calm, deeply controlled voice said, "This is Adrian Lancaster." Aiden froze. The billionaire. The father of the woman whose life he had saved with his own breath. "I would like to speak with you. Privately." Those words alone were enough to send any man's pulse racing. The meeting took place in a high-rise office overlooking the entire city. Aiden arrived in simple clothes, his only neat shirt and washed-out jeans, while Adrian Lancaster stood near the window in a perfectly tailored suit, silver hair combed back, sharp eyes carrying a weight of decades of decisions that shaped industries. For a long moment, the billionaire said nothing. Then he turned. "You saved my daughter's life." Aiden swallowed. "I did what anyone trained would have done." "No," Adrian said quietly. "Most people freeze. You didn't." Aiden didn't know what to say. He simply nodded. Adrian studied him with a strange intensity. "Rhea told me what she remembered. She said she felt someone fighting for her when she couldn't breathe. A presence refusing to let her go." Aiden felt heat rise to his ears. "I just acted." The billionaire stepped closer. His voice softened. "I understand the unconventional part of the procedure. You don't need to explain yourself. You saved her. And I want to know the man who risked everything for a stranger." Aiden felt something loosen inside, one small knot of fear untying. They spoke for nearly an hour. Adrian asked about Aiden's training, his daughter, his struggles. And Aiden told the truth, not exaggerating, not asking for anything. Adrian listened with an expression that slowly shifted from reserve to reflective, almost ashamed. "Men like me," Adrian murmured, "forget that life isn't just about wealth. My daughter nearly died. And the person who saved her doesn't even have a car that starts reliably." Aiden stiffened, but Adrian raised a hand. "That was not a criticism. It's reality. And it isn't fair." Then he said something Aiden would never forget. "What kind of world do we live in, Mr. Crow, where the man who saved my daughter struggles more than anyone in my circle?" Aiden didn't answer. He couldn't. Later that afternoon, Adrian asked him to visit Rhea. She sat near the hospital window, sunlight bathing her pale but recovering face. She wore a soft day dress, her hair tied loosely. When she looked up and saw Aiden, her expression trembled, not with embarrassment, but with a deep, quiet gratitude. "I heard your voice," she whispered. "When everything was fading. I don't know how, but I did." Aiden stood silently, unsure if approaching would disrespect her space. "I want to thank you," she continued, "for choosing not to freeze. For fighting for me." He shook his head. "You don't have to thank me." "I do," she insisted gently. "Because for the first time in my life, someone saved me without wanting anything in return." Over the next week, Rhea asked Aiden to visit again. And again. Their conversations moved from cautious gratitude to genuine connection. She learned his life story. He learned her loneliness despite her wealth. They walked through the hospital's rooftop garden during the daytime. They talked about Maya, about loss, dreams, mistakes, hope. Something subtle, something warm, began to form between them. The world would call it impossible.